Hi, I'm Zining, and you are listening to the third podcast here for my Asian film history blog. And today I have someone really special with me. Her name is Evangeline. And Evangeline, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Evangeline. I'm a year 2 student at NTU and I'm reading psychology.
Okay, so Evangeline, what is it about films that you like so much?
First and foremost, I think it's very relaxing. Amidst all the homework and all the assignments that are due, watching a film is a luxury. In particular, I like films that have a rich plot and in general, like scenic kinds of films. I like films that talk about someone's culture because it enriches.
So today we watched Balzac and the Little Chinese Seamstress, and that's by Dai Sijie. Well, it's quite a scenic film, isn't it? For me, especially towards the end, I think the scenery played a very important part because right towards the end we know that they are going to build a dam there, and so they revisit all the previous spots that were shown in the beginning of the film, basically to show how much has changed and how much is going to change. Yeah, so for you, did the scenery have any significance in that sense?
Like what you said, it played an important role at the end of the film when the news showed that the Yangtze River was going to flood the whole of the village. And it brought me back to how temporary most of our buildings are in Singapore, as like Singapore is an island with very limited land. So the government's always trying to rebuild and upgrade things. So nothing is really very permanent here.
So we're also talking about culture, how you like looking at different cultures. Watching this film, did it do that for you? Did it show you something that you enjoy about different cultures?
Yeah, indeed. The film showed about the Cultural Revolution and basically the time when communism ruled China. So it showed how the people were suppressed, how educated people had to go through like re-education in a rural village. So it showed a part of China that I might not have known if I had not watched it.
Okay, yeah, for me too, actually. I didn't know. Of course, we always know that they had to go through re-education, but what exactly happened during that time is, something that we can learn from this film. And also because we know that this film is actually semi-autobiographical and it's based on a novel by the director himself. Culture also played an important part in the sense that the characters, they found foreign books, and this really blended into the whole story as well. So another thing about storytelling that is significant is that it's not just about the books. There's also different forms of storytelling as well. In one particular scene, Ma goes to see this elderly musician, and he sings him a riddle. And there are also different forms of narratives, like when the two main characters, they go off into the city and then they watch the revolutionary films. They come back and they have a sort of theater style where they relate stories to the villagers, and most of these stories are actually made up or from the books that they have read. It's not actually the content from the film. And also, towards the end, we see how Ma actually films the whole of the villages and the village that is going to be submerged. And so there's a documentary style of storytelling as well. And so Evangeline was saying something about how riddles can relate in a way to how the communist situation.
I felt that because riddles occur in a way where the answers are hidden within the story itself. So in the communist government, a lot of things were hidden from the general public, and things were said in a kind of riddle-like fashion in which the core information was hidden in a whole story-like kind of way. Like, for example, when Lu and Ma went to watch the North Korean film, it was actually a trap by the chief, I think, wanted to see if they were going to watch it in the end. Many of these communist kind of information or ways of thinking were always hidden within a film in a kind of well-received kind of form.
Okay, so I also wanted to ask Evangeline one thing regarding the ending of the film, because we see throughout the film that it's it's very realistically portrayed. It's not something that is very fantasy-like. It's a movie that is grounded in reality. But towards the end, when we see that, okay, the village is being submerged, it becomes a sort of dream sequence where you go back to the hut and then the entire place is submerged in water. It looks unreal, and then there are the three main characters in their younger form being there. So why do you think the director portrayed it this way?
Probably a dreamy sequence showed kind of memory that has been lost in a certain sense, because the main characters are now living in modern societies where they hold prestigious jobs, which are a far cry from the things that they did in the village, where they had to farm and do laborious things and get dirty. So probably the submersion of their past, where the past, while it's a memory, cannot be relived again, because the things that they held dear are no longer around. It's no longer physical, and it's quite impossible to go back because they have professions that require them to be in this environment of a modern society.
We can also talk a bit about the camera movement. I think there are certain scenes in which, a handheld camera is used, and these are usually scenes where we show them coping with certain things, like when they first go into the village and they have to learn how to pick up buckets of manure. So Evangeline was telling me how this actually brings out certain emotions, certain tensions. Can you explain that?
Probably the movement from the handheld camera gives a very jerky feel to the whole film itself, because it kind of gives a certain feel to like how the water or like his shoulders responds to the movement. A bit like the jerkiness of him climbing up the slopes, the stone paths, gives a certain emotion to it, and probably brings the audience into the current scene together with him as he struggles to carry the heavy load or to stay on track.
So we have now officially come to the end of the third podcast here with Evangeline. Evangeline, thank you very much. And once again, watch out for the next podcast that we're going to have.